I would like to officially welcome everyone to our webinar today. We are very pleased to have you with us, and certainly a special thanks to OKI, NCT-COG, and Appalachia, sorry, for joining us today. Also, I'm sorry that my voice is a little froggy. I've been getting over this cold for the past 2 weeks, it seems. But my name is Jessica Routson. I am the program manager here at the National Association of Regional Councils. If you're not familiar with us, we are a membership organization comprised of metropolitan planning organizations, regional councils, COGs, any and all between economic development districts. And we joined the SolSmart program back in July of 2021, at the same time as the Nato Research Foundation, with the hopes of, giving our members the information and resources needed to, either think about designation through the SolSmart program, or just, get more information about how they can promote solar in their regions. And we have Theresa Perry from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and she will be able to give us a pretty good overview of the SolSmart program. She's been with that program since its inception, and she just, not since its inception, but she does know, any and all things solar. So please ask her questions throughout the webinar, and of course, our panelists today. And with that, I'll turn things over to Kira to introduce herself.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, I'm Kira Ristig. I'm with the Nato Research Foundation. So we're the nonprofit research arm of the National Association of Development Organizations. So we work with regional planning organizations, council of governments, economic development districts around the country, specifically in smaller metro areas and in rural parts of the country. And I'll echo some of what Jess said and won't repeat her, but we as well joined the SolSmart program as part of the grant back in July last year to promote it to our members and increase their understanding of, free technical assistance that's available to them through the Department of Energy. So our involvement with the grant is wrapping up pretty soon. So we wanted to use this opportunity to showcase some of our members who have been designated, and we thought no one better than Theresa to lead the discussion, given that she's an expert in solar and I am personally not. So we're really happy that everyone could join us today. And I will turn it over to Theresa, who's going to do a short intro about herself, the program, and then we will have our speakers from the three organizations talk, and then Theresa will lead a roundtable discussion after that. So Theresa, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this program has been around since 2015 is when they first, put ink to paper on this program. We had our first designees in 2016. And in 2019, the year that I joined the program, although not on my doing, the regional organizations, we decided we could look at how can we help regional organizations in addition to our city county kind of work that we've been doing. So that was an exciting change for us, or addition to us, I should say. We have to date, as of today, we are in the midst of a campaign with Secretary Granholm from the Department of Energy to get a certain number. We're aiming for 460. We, as of today, are at 455. So that's awesome. Almost there to get these designations in. But since we got the regional organization pathway in there, those best practices that we've helped implement for communities can also go toward regional organizations. And we have 12 to date that have hit that mark, which is just fantastic. We're so excited to be working at this broader regional level instead of just at the smaller community level. And we believe that there's been just a tremendous amount of what's the word I'm looking for, where it's exponential in how that works. If it's just one small community compared to a larger region with many communities. So I'm really happy with the work that Jess and Kira have both done as far as bringing to light what regional organizations might look at, how can we work with them better, and helping that. And excited too that the program will be continuing another 5 years. DOE is so pleased with the work that this program has done. They called it a flagship program recently, so that's really exciting, and have extended this program for another 5 years. So it's never too late to join this program. But really excited of the three panelists that we have today. They are going to, as Kira mentioned, they are going to talk about their journey thus far, where they are, and then I have some questions for them. We'll get their answers and have more of a discussion, but please, again, put any questions in that you'd like, or reach out afterwards if you'd like. Either way is fine. All righty, with that, I think we're going to North Central Texas.
Good morning, no, afternoon, I guess now for everybody. So my name is Lori Clark. I'm with the North Central Texas Council of Government. So if you don't know us, we cover 16 counties centered on the Dallas-Fort Worth urban core in North Central Texas. Our region is geographically about the same size as the state of Connecticut. So we have a really wide spectrum of a mix of urban and rural communities and that are part of our member governments. And I am joined by Edith Marvin. Edith.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
So I'll talk a little bit about our solar journey as the North Central Texas COG. And we kind of did our SolSmart designation backwards, maybe from some others, because we started on the solar path long before we became designated as a SolSmart region. But I wanted to talk first about why we went down this path. First and foremost, we're an ozone non-attainment area. And as we continue to strive to meet our air quality standards, increasing use of renewable energy is one of those things that can help us get there. And we're also a very fast growing region. We have some of the fastest growing cities and fastest growing counties in the country are in our territory. We have a lot of economic growth, and we can't serve that all of those people and all of those businesses and all of that economic growth with the limited natural resources that we have if we don't integrate renewables and integrate distributed generation in particular. I actually work in the transportation department, which is where we do our air quality planning. We have a big push to transition towards zero emission vehicles and battery electric vehicles. So as we are planning on the transportation side for increased electricity load associated with the transportation system, again, distributed generation and renewable energy is a big element of making sure that we do that responsibly. And then, of course, as a regional agency, we want to facilitate our local governments. We want to provide that consistency from region or from community to community as developers travel across the region. And ultimately, this all just reduces everybody's cost. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we kind of did everything. Our regional SolSmart designation came last. It is the most recent thing we have done. We actually started working on solar almost 10 years ago. It's kind of hard to believe it's been that long with the National Association of Regional Councils. We hosted a solar workshop in May of 2013, which was excellent. Solarize was one of the initiatives that was presented as that in that workshop. And we had a local nonprofit that basically walked out that door May 2013, and by July, they had selected a solar installer through an RFP, and they were installing solar on rooftops in the city of Plano. So it was like a lightning speed turnaround and very inspiring. And we're happy to be invited to participate with the Mid-America Regional Council later that year in Solar Ready 2, which then led to some follow-up work with our state energy office, which then led to being invited to participate as the SolSmart advisor when SolSmart technical assistance was looking for some additional on-the-ground support back in 2017. And we were able to get quite a few of our cities designated, and that kind of laid the groundwork for being in a good place to be able to achieve that regional designation based on a lot of the work that we'd already accomplished. Next slide. Part of getting designated as a SolSmart region was putting together a series of goals and a solar statement. And so here's some of those goals that we put together for ourselves. First and foremost, to compile and track how renewable energy and solar PV is growing, and then drafting a plan to further increase that deployment across our region. So we're still working on getting those metrics in the first place. We have a lot of different utilities in our region, and so that's something that takes a little bit of additional groundwork to just get those metrics established in the first place. Then we want to promote those connections between solar and emergency preparedness, grid stability, that we're coming at this from a reliability perspective just as much as an environmental perspective, and really help everybody think of solar in those terms. We have a specific goal to get SolSmart designation for 10 more of our cities. And then we've actually recently finished developing a regional resource related to solar ready construction and the solar ready appendices that are in the international construction codes. And then finally increasing the deployment, kind of putting all of that prep work into action. Next slide. So we do have 6 communities in our region that are currently designated as SolSmart, and these go back to that 2017 SolSmart technical assistance work that we did. One of these cities, I can't remember which one now, it was actually got their designation kind of on their own, separate from our SolSmart technical assistance, but the other 5 were ones that we supported. And they're very proud and of the work that they've done. And I've got some data that I'll show at the very end of this presentation on kind of what solar looks like in several of these communities right now. Next slide. I will also note that they're smaller. These are, when we did our SolSmart technical assistance, we did not work with our biggest cities because it takes longer, right, for them to adjust their processes. They have a lot more structure and many more departments and a lot more fingers on different initiatives. And so starting with some of our medium and smaller cities was where we went first when we were helping our communities get SolSmart designation. So we do have a lot of resources that we've compiled at the regional level that we try to kind of dangle in front of our communities as a bit of a carrot. Like, we've tried to make this easy for you. We've tried to provide some low-hanging fruit that they're able to kind of copy and paste, for lack of a better term, into their own city processes. So we've got, a sample permit checklist and some training sessions that we did a few years ago that we recorded that they could still go and have new staff watch. We have some model ordinance guidelines. As I mentioned, that solar ready code language is something that our regional codes coordinating committee just went through and reviewed and has issued an opinion statement or on the fact that those guidelines don't need any sort of modification for our region, that they're good kind of as is if a local government wanted to take that solar ready appendix and put it into their local codes. Next slide. And then there's several things that we've put together or have tried to compile and curate through this Go Solar Texas website that we have for our local governments in terms of putting solar into their own operations. So we have some cost benefit analyses pro formas that were done for us by a consultant to look at putting solar on like landfills and other underutilized properties that municipalities may have under their ownership and under their control. And then our state energy office offers free technical assistance. And so that free technical assistance is like, where might you be able to achieve some cost savings on your own facilities? Solar may be one of those strategies. And then that kind of leads into diving into other free technical assistance, such as that offered by the SolSmart team. And then there's funding available from our state energy office. So we try to kind of feather all of these things together so that they can see that path from planning through implementation. And then trying to really make it easy for our cities to have quick and easy places that they can link to from their own websites to get some of those other community engagement points when it comes to SolSmart and kind of getting on that path easily. And then we're evaluating PACE, property assessed clean energy, at a regional level. Next slide. So I have to give credit to our local governments. So yesterday morning, I hit them up and I said, hey, do y'all have data readily available on how many solar permits you've issued over the past 4 years or past few years. And by close of business yesterday, 4 of them had replied with data points. And Edith and I were looking yesterday at a map that had been done back in 2016. And as of that time, based on city permit data, we had about 2,000 solar installations across the entire region. In the last 4 years, 4 communities have issued almost 2,000 solar permits just among those 4 cities. And again, these are smaller and medium-sized cities, so they represent 4% of the entire population. Over 800 solar permits were issued in 2021 alone. And so far, with just 3 years of 2022 underway, they've already hit 250. So I think solar is on that kind of exponential growth trajectory in North Texas. And we're excited to get more of our communities into the SolSmart family and help push that growth even higher. So I think that's all I've got. Yep. I'll be happy to take questions now, later, however we want to do that. Thank y'all.
I think maybe, yeah, Andy, if you wanted to go next.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andy Meyer. I'm a senior planner with OKI Regional Council of Governments. We are the MPO for the greater Cincinnati area. My role at OKI is to support local planning efforts through guidance and technical assistance and data. That's something that our agency is proud to say that we specialize in. Over the last few years, a significant amount of my focus has been on sustainable energy and energy efficiency, which includes leading OKI's SolSmart initiatives. As I said, OKI is the MPO and Regional Council of Governments for Greater Cincinnati. Our territory spans 8 counties that are in 3 states. Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. That's where we get our name, OKI. And within those 8 counties, we have approximately 184 political jurisdictions. Our board has 120 members, and approximately 3/4 of them are elected officials. And OKI has 30 full-time staff members. So as a council of governments, pretty typical, I would suspect. So in December 2020, OKI was awarded a silver designation from SolSmart. And at the time, we were the only regional organization to be recognized in Ohio, Kentucky, or Indiana. And the designation was based largely on our work over the past number of years in a few different projects that I'll touch on, but largely we as North Central Texas was involved in the Solar Ready 2 project. And that was instrumental not only to us achieving that silver designation, but being invited to apply as one of the first regional organizations to be recognized by SolSmart. And we were really excited for the opportunity to apply because the SolSmart designation provides us with recognition for the work that we've done to advance solar in our region. And it also provides access to knowledgeable experts to help provide additional support to us and more importantly, to our local government members. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the project that was foremost in leading to our SolSmart designation was the Solar Ready 2 project. We completed this project in 2016, and it addressed many of the same best practices encouraged by SolSmart. The project, we dealt with permitting, financing, and even the needs of the local solar industry. And kind of one unique product of our work in the Solar Ready 2 was a mapping tool that would estimate the solar potential of rooftops in the entire region. And we unveiled that early in 2016. So maybe a few of you are aware of Google's Project Sunroof that they came out with just a couple of years ago. Yeah, ours works pretty much the same way, and we had that 4 years before Google did. If we had only had the foresight to patent it. So the SolSmart designation was a key. It was key to remind our members that we did this project back in 2016 as a way to bring this back up and remind them that this information is out there available to them. There was a couple of other projects that followed that continued our work in energy that I want to mention. First, also at the end of 2016, we rolled out our revised version of the elements of an effective local comprehensive plan. It's our guidebook to local governments on how to put together a well thought out comprehensive plan for their communities. And in 2016, we rolled out a couple of new elements. And one of those that we featured was energy. We're encouraging communities to really look at how energy plays a part in development in their region, in housing, in public service, in resiliency, and make the case that it's an important topic to be addressed in a local comprehensive plan. And then, as luck would have it, a grant became available in 2017, and we were able to roll out the Community Energy Plan project, where we built upon that idea of including energy in a comprehensive plan. We actually received grant funding to go out to 8 of our member communities and do a energy plan for them, kind of creating a set of sample documents for others in the region to look to on what an energy plan looks like and what it can do for their communities. And really, all 3 of these projects played an important role in our SolSmart application. Next slide, please. So I touched on before that SolSmart provides technical assistance to designees. Now, how is this helping us as a region? Well, there's a few concrete ways that we're benefiting from that. First, SolSmart helped us refine the guidance we provided in our Solar Ready project. The information is now going on 7 years old, and it really benefited us to have SolSmart's help in updating and providing more detail to this material. And this is really important because the landscape of solar is in constant change. For example, just last year, both Ohio and Indiana passed state laws changing the permitting process for utility scale solar projects. So this information that we provide to our member jurisdictions, we've got to keep that current, and SolSmart helps us do that. Next, SolSmart continues to help us hold workshops to bring their expert guidance directly to our member communities, so that they're prepared to confidently address their own solar needs. In the workshops, we cover common situations and requests that local communities receive related to solar, along with ways solar can benefit the community and help them reach their own energy goals. And lastly, a benefit of the SolSmart designation is the recognition that our region is equipped to serve the needs of our residents, businesses, and the solar industry. Solar development from individual household systems to larger commercial and utility scale installations brings job and economic activity to our region. And this designation is really a signpost that we've done our homework and we're ready for that investment. Next slide, please. So where are we going from here? We're planning to hold additional solar workshops. Already we've hosted a workshop to promote awareness of the SolSmart designation to our local jurisdictions. And we also had another to highlight the benefits of local governments that have installed solar on their own facilities. So our next step is to really bring attention to changes in state law, as I mentioned, governing the permit process, and to highlight best practices for local permitting of solar, smaller solar projects. Through the SolSmart designation, we've become aware of a handful of communities that have an active interest in promoting solar, and we're eager to help them fine-tune their policies and actions really to match their goals around solar and to support them in applying for their own SolSmart designation. And I want to note that really the only prerequisite that kept us from earning a gold designation was the number of local governments in our region that were SolSmart designated. So that's a key effort of ours is to continue to promote the SolSmart designation to our local governments and help them in applying for their own designation. Lastly, key to promoting further solar development is highlighting the success stories. And that was a key focus of our SolSmart workshop that we held last fall. We highlighted 3 local governments that took the solar leap, that purchased solar for their facilities, and they did so. First, the local governments we highlighted, they're kind of abroad from large city of Cincinnati all the way to small villages who invested in solar. And they did that in 3 very different ways. So we kind of, in one workshop, kind of spanned the bandwidth of what's available for local governments to invest in solar. And we really made the case of why they arrived at the decision and how it worked out for them and how that fits into their energy goals. And actually, as a result of that workshop, a local nonprofit was working to assemble a number of smaller local governments into a group to go after a group purchase of municipal solar. So that's good that to see that, you know, there's numerous communities out there, you know, that have the vision to and see investing in solar as key to providing good governance to their communities. And you can click over to the last slide. So really, in short, we found that our investment involvement with SolSmart has led to several key benefits for our region, so that if you have any questions that we may not have time to address in the webinar, my contact is there on the screen. You can feel free to reach out to me.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Andy. And we have one more speaker. I'm excited to hear what she's got to say. I know she's been working hard. Caroline Smith is from APRC. So go ahead, Caroline.
Hi, everyone. It's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. I'm Caroline Smith. I'm with the Appalachian Regional Planning Council. And we are not quite where these other two organizations are in their SolSmart experience, but I'm hoping that maybe I can share some useful information from an organization that's still in the designation process. Before I do, just to kind of frame where we are in the world, and I don't have a PowerPoint. I hope that's all right for everyone. So we're just going to have to kind of use our imaginations when it comes to describing what we do and where we're located. The Appalachian Regional Planning Council is in Northwest Florida in the Panhandle. We are basically the most rural region in Florida. We have 9 counties. We have a metropolitan state capital, Tallahassee, in the middle. About 300,000 people, so a small state capital. And then 8 rural counties surrounding it, about 500,000 people together. So as an organization, we're dealing with kind of 2 main groups in our planning process. We have Tallahassee, which is actually a gold designated SolSmart community and has been influential to us in pursuing a regional designation. And then we have 8 counties that we're kind of attempting to assist from a regional platform so that we can best use resources to get everyone on the same level. So our council works in a variety of program areas, but as far as economic development is concerned, we've seen kind of a surge in interest in solar and solar farms in our region over the last couple of years. Kind of most visibly started after we had a hurricane in 2018. A lot of trees came down and a lot of solar farms came in. And it was about the same time that we first heard about the Regional Pathways program for SolSmart. And so what we were looking at was solar farms coming into some of our rural jurisdictions that weren't prepared for solar. They didn't have any kind of solar ordinance on the book, didn't know kind of what they should be looking out for. It created some controversy, but mostly it just became very obvious to us that it would be a good time to kind of educate ourselves on solar and create some capacity for that solar related training in our region. And so I believe it was about this time last year, actually, that we decided that we would pursue the Regional Pathways designation for SolSmart. As I said, we're not yet designated, so we're still in the process. So this is all very fresh, and I'm kind of speaking from a place of kind of actively working on it, but not yet experiencing the benefits of it. And so we basically approached our board to see if they would have interest in us pursuing this. And our board is made up of mostly elected officials from our 9 counties. So we find their opinions are very helpful when it comes to what would be most beneficial to our local governments. And with unanimous agreement, we were able to move forward. And so we're about midway through that process right now. And we basically, among the other reasons I mentioned, the kind of flux of solar in our area, one of the main reasons we wanted to join SolSmart as a regional organization was to try to kind of create a pathway for our rural local governments to join or at least receive some technical assistance in the area of solar. Kind of how we've come to work in Florida is to work as an extension of municipal and county staff. That's kind of how we function. So we actually have, I think, a decent size staff, considering the area that we serve and how rural it is. But we're stretched pretty thin at times because of how rural it is. And sometimes you might have a community that just has one, even two people on staff. And so we try to provide that extra capacity when they need it. So for us, pursuing solar really meant that even though maybe we'd be a little stretched thin to pursue it in the first place, in the end, what we do is we'd be expanding our capacity and kind of adding this extra area of expertise to our repertoire that we could then kind of funnel into our rural local governments. So yeah, it's been a barrier for us having limited staff capacity to actually even work on the designation process. We're technically paused right now until next month because everyone's kind of already occupied with other things. But we know that barrier is exactly the reason we need to pursue this. And it's actually been really lovely going through the designation process and having it be on our own time and kind of working, kind of being able to, select the flavors that work best for our, ice cream cone of solar, depending on what we are capable of. And I'm sorry for the metaphor. It just came to mind and it wasn't a good one. But it's allowed us to really kind of use what our skill sets are and what we are already capable of and the ways that we already reach out to our rural governments and use those as part of our pathway destination. So being able to kind of pick and choose has been extremely helpful, and it's also been helpful the kind of at your own speed. We used to have one person who was just focused on this. That was kind of a primary thing they were working on, and we were able to get a lot of momentum going, and then they had to switch to something else. And we took a little break, and it's been really lovely to not be excluded from the process because we have limited staff capacity at times, and to know that it's there once we get there. So we have this kind of goal in mind, and we're just kind of slowly working towards it as best we can. And to also have the support of our local governments and one SolSmart designated community local government, to have their support as we kind of move through this process, knowing that for Tallahassee, which is already designated, that there's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, and they've already been able to really construct a kind of a robust solar program, in our opinion, for their size and for how new they are to the process as well. And I hope that's useful. I know it's a bit odd to be kind of in the middle of the designation process, but we are and for that, actually, I should just say we're kind of honored to join the organizations that are here today, because we are kind of we are very new to the scene. And one last thing I'll just add is for other organizations that might decide to pursue this as well, having the support of other regional organizations who have gone through this process has been extremely helpful, as well as just the SolSmart group and kind of their input and being able to talk through our different options, having the experience at hand of folks who have pursued this from a regional perspective, and who are dealing with similar constraints, who are working in, for us, other rural areas, and kind of understand the circumstances. That has been really useful to us going through this process.
Thank you. That's great. Caroline brought up so many great points that I just want to point out a couple of them before I ask any questions. One is that there are a lot of things to pick and choose from within the designation process. We recently had a third-party evaluation of our program for all of, all community types, that showed that at the time that they looked at the data, it's a little dated now, but no two communities had selected precisely the same best practices to adopt. And that speaks a lot to being able to tailor this program to what your goals are and what your needs are. And I'm so excited about that. We do have a large scale pathway for communities. So if you have rural communities and you haven't seen that pathway, you should take a look at it. It says here are the criteria they should strongly consider if their goal is large scale. And we do try to address the different needs that different communities logically are going to have, depending on who they are. So really excited about that. Also excited that, you know, you're acknowledging the start-stop part of things. We're happy to work with communities where they are and organizations where they are. So really great. I've got some questions I want to ask. You can also put your questions in the Q&A piece of the Zoom, which is great. We've got one question there. I think it's just for Andy. And so Andy, if you want to type an answer, great. Otherwise, I'll come back to it. The first question I want to go to, and I'm going to just go in our same order. So Laura, you're up, but just looking at your area, you described a little bit about how permits have certainly increased, but what is your overall solar landscape in the North Central Texas area? What's it look like? Where is it blooming? Like, is it rooftop solar? Is it large scale? Is it everything? And what's been the biggest challenge for your communities in the solar adoption arena? What are they facing that's tough?
So I think the landscape is a little all of the above. You do see, you know, driving around, you see a lot of additional solar going on rooftops, and by and large, majority of the permits that have been approved have been for residential rooftop. Just a handful of commercial are, as everybody learned last year, if you didn't already know, Texas has a very interesting deregulated electricity market. So most of our region falls into deregulated territory, and Encore Electric Delivery, which covers the heart of the urban core, has an incentive program for residential solar, but they've updated that incentive program to require storage as in order to qualify, which I think is kind of interesting and kind of speaks to the maturity of the market and as far as what they're seeing.
Yeah.
That market forces are kind of driving residential pretty well. We do see a lot of utility scale popping up in our more rural counties, and have gotten some inquiries from, not necessarily from the local governments, but from landowners that are adjacent to some of those properties and have tried to provide resources. I think one of the big challenges Caroline kind of spoke to, which is having staff capacity to stay focused on something like this for our local governments. I think that's one of the big things. You know, you have to make sure you're getting trash picked up. You have to make sure your wastewater treatment plants are working. You know, there's a bunch of things that are not negotiable, and this is a nice to have. That's not necessarily a core function of a municipal government. And so being able to keep some attention devoted on something to help advance that economic development is challenging. So I agree with Caroline, trying to serve as an extension of staff is part of what we hope to provide.
Excellent. I just want to point out, and I know I sound like a salesperson, but I'm so excited about our updated guidebook, which has a lot of information in it about storage. So if you haven't seen that, that's in there. We're at solsmart.org. solsmart.org. No, really great resources. Anybody can access those resources. You do not have to be going for designation, and they are available to anybody. Templates, info, webinars, all kinds of things, but yeah, really, really great. So we'll move on to Andy then. And Andy, same question. What does your solar landscape look like? Lori, was all of the above. Are you also that, or do you have more rural, more rooftop residential? Where are you guys?
Yeah, within our region, we're seeing all types and sizes except for utility scale. We have utility scale projects that are happening just outside of our region, but not within our 8 counties. There really isn't the rural land and the size of land that's attractive to the utility scale. But we're seeing residential, small time commercial up to large whole rooftops of warehousing and distribution centers. And I think we're seeing a lot of push from local governments and civic organizations that are kind of leading the way, from the city of Cincinnati's green energy goals. And they announced a solar deal where they are backing the development of a solar farm in I think it's in North Carolina. It ended up being, but the city is guaranteeing a purchase for their own municipal energy, as well as offering a solar deal for residents and businesses that want to purchase their energy through the city, and that's Ohio also has a deregulated energy market, and so residents have quite a bit of choice on who they purchase energy from. It's all delivered by the local utility still, but you're purchasing energy on the open market, and that opens up for anyone to purchase renewable energy credits. So a lot of people are kind of supporting solar and green energy through that.
And is it grid parity for pricing? Is it the same as what they could buy from an electric? Are they getting a price break?
It is right now. It's competitive with other energy providers, say non-green energy providers. It wasn't always like that way. I'd say going back a couple, 3 years, you would have to pay a premium for green energy if you wanted to purchase it. But now it's fairly even as far as the price scale goes.
Excellent. And somebody has just asked, what city in North Carolina were you referring to?
I don't, it isn't a city. I don't know exactly where in North Carolina the solar farm is. I'm pretty sure it's developed by now.
Right.
They announced the deal probably 18 months ago. But we also have, local, smaller local governments. I talked about the webinar. We had a village and a small city talking about how they incorporated solar into their facilities and what a benefit it was. Our local zoo, the Cincinnati Zoo, did a solar canopy over in their entire parking lot. So
Nice.
Imagine a huge parking lot. All the spaces are under shade of solar panels, and they have EV chargers and everything like that. So
Lots of progress.
Yeah, there's several high profile good examples of solar to point to.
Excellent. And Caroline, going back to you, I know you talked about having your rural counties versus your city, and looking at your solar landscape. Can you speak a little bit to what the motivation is in your rural counties to look for those large scale development? Is it tax-based? Are there offers from utilities? What's in your solar landscape? What's kind of driving that?
Well, honestly, it's just been, at least kind of from our perspective, people have just been showing up wanting to build solar farms. There's been no kind of, so far, no concentrated effort at the local level to attract the solar. I think it's because of the nature of our region, having such large parcels of land that are unused. To attract solar. That's kind of the rural motivation. For Tallahassee, I know some of that motivation is also partially kind of driven by industry and the types of kind of, high electricity consumption sort of fields that are already located in Tallahassee or would choose to, such as we have like the national, actually it's really cool. We have the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory, like for the country in Tallahassee. No one knows about, but now everyone does. And so it uses a lot of electricity, things like this. And so Tallahassee operates 2 solar farms out by the airport, but then the ones out in counties are there's not, unfortunately, there's not enough information sharing. And as far as the rooftop residential scene goes, we're still kind of unsure about how popular that is. I think there's like that Google map, I can't remember the name of it, the one that allows you to detect rooftop residential.
I think that, yeah, that's the one Andy was talking about. The this name escapes me.
Yeah, sunroof.
Sunroof, thank you.
Yeah. So like sunroof, for us, our population isn't dense enough to use that. So we're still kind of working on it, but that's
yeah. Okay, great. My next set of questions for the three of you have to do with how did you get buy-in to launch a solar program, to go into SolSmart, to do the other parts that you have, and as you guys had talked about what you've been doing, one thing that you didn't mention was jobs, and I'm always interested in solar jobs. So as you talk about buy-in, if you could also speak to whether or not that the jobs and market development played any role in it, and what that role was. And so we'll keep with the same order. And so Lori, if you could answer first, that would be great.
Sure, and I'm gonna call on Edith to assist here because she was involved in the most recent presentation to our board on our regional designation. But the very, very beginning, when we participated in Solar Ready 2, it was really this angle of, solar projects as a way to help with our ozone non-attainment issues, which our board and our policy, our MPO, we are also the MPO, our MPO policy board is very well versed on our air quality challenges and kind of the regulatory mandates there, as is our board. So, but more recently, Edith.
Yeah, and I would add to, from a buy-in perspective, one of the things that I think we did right as a Council of Governments early on, when we started, like in the 2013, 2014 time period, when we were first starting to talk about solar and creating a website and generating a permit checklist, we were very focused on inclusiveness and diversity. And so we would bring in not just our local governments, the building officials, the fire marshals, but also the building industry, the building associations. There were some solar advocates in our area, and then there was the public and the school districts. And so we got a lot of different perspectives that we were able to include into the information that we were building and add that information to our website for different audiences. So we weren't just focused on sharing information with one audience. The other thing that I think was well in our favor is kind of the message of practice what you preach. And so we started with our local government members, and we were able, by the time we got to a point where we realized that we had the opportunity to apply for, a regional solar designation, we already had 6 of our communities that were SolSmart designated. And so we were able to show, look, here's what progress we've made so far out in our region and working with our local governments. And we have an opportunity, to practice what we preach. So we have an opportunity to apply for this designation, and we had a unanimous vote from our board to, yes, please do that. And so I think it's a message, that's important to share too with our communities, to get additional communities to come in and continue towards this path of adopting or being a SolSmart designated community as well. Well, now we can say, well, now we are too. So there's something to that.
Yeah, perfect. Andy, do you have anything to add for buy-in and or jobs?
Well, yeah, I mean, for us, the decision to become SolSmart designated was pretty straightforward. It was an opportunity to remind our members of the work that we've done through the Solar Ready 2 project and the other energy related work that we had done. It is a way to kind of put that out there again and remind them, hey, that we have all these resources here for you. And then the bonus of being involved with SolSmart is having access to broader industry experts from around the country, which just adds a whole another level of capability to the service that we provide. And at the end of the day, we're a service organization that's devoted to providing information and technical assistance to our member communities.
Perfect. And Caroline, do you have a way that you're getting buy-in to continue through this process? Oh, we lost Caroline.
I think she dropped off, Theresa.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
she'll rejoin in a minute. But
alrighty. I have so many more questions, but we'll save them for another time. This has been just fascinating, and I've really enjoyed hearing from folks. Kara, do you have some closing words for us?
let's see, Caroline just came back. I don't know if we want to put her on the spot or not, but since we only have 3 more minutes to go, I think I'll just wrap it up. If anyone had any last things they wanted to say, but otherwise, Jess and I just wanted to thank everyone, all of our panelists who were able to join today. We really appreciate it, as we appreciate the work that you're doing for your communities. So everyone who's attended will be sending a follow-up email. Jess and I have been working on with the SolSmart team a document talking about best practices, experiences from regional organizations, et cetera, that we hope will be a good companion piece to this webinar and something you can refer to in the future. And we will also, I just saw Theresa put her contact info there, but just in case you miss it, we will also be putting everyone's contact information in the email in case you'd like to reach out to any of them afterwards. So I just would like to thank everyone again, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Good luck on your solar journeys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Theresa.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.